Welcome to North of the Broad, everyone. I'm Robin Zimmerman, and we are at the Pat Conroy Literary Center, along with the Executive Director, Jonathan Haupt. We always begin our show with Jonathan, and we're in the education room, which is used for many programs, in particular book signings.
Absolutely.
And you have one coming up on June the 8th with this book.
That's right. We're very excited to host the Friends of Hunting Island for a book signing for Up Here, which is their new photography book all about the lighthouse on Hunting Island. It's written by the Lightkeepers, and Pat Conroy's widow, Cassandra King, wrote the foreword. So that's Saturday, June 8th. They'll all be here in our education room from 2 to 4 doing a book signing.
And it's a drop-in.
It is, so folks can come at any point and support the book and therefore the Friends of Hunting Island.
And it's called Up Here,
yes.
All right? So what else is this room used for, Jonathan?
Well, the room is named in honor of Dorothea Benton Frank, who's here on the wall behind us. Dottie was a very well-known Southern writer, a contemporary of Pat's and a friend of Pat. So she passed away a couple of years after he did, and her family wanted to be very supportive of the educational mission of the Conroy Center. So this room lives many lives in the course of a week, and it's a nice way to honor Dottie. So in addition to the book signing, we also have, from Beaufort Elementary, which is 2 blocks away from us, and a lot of other schools as well.
Right.
Our local writers group meets in here. Our book clubs meet in here. The visiting writers who we talk about on the show all the time are very often in here as well.
It's a very special room. We're going to move over here to the photographs that were taken by Paul and Billy Kaiserling for a project.
That's right. So it's really special to surround the education room with photos of Pat Conroy being an educator. So he taught on Daufuskie Island just 1 year, the 1969-1970 school year. But while Pat was doing that, Billy Kaiserling, our former mayor here in Beaufort, was a graduate student at Brandeis University, and he had a project to do a photo essay about someone in his life he admired. So nobody knew that Pat's year would be as controversial or as storied as it became. So it's a wonderful bit of serendipity that Billy and his brother Paul took all of these amazing photographs.
And the students were 5th grade to 8th grade, did you say?
Pat had 18 students, grades 5 through 8, no experience whatsoever teaching students that young.
What moved him to teach at Daufuskie, on Daufuskie?
He was thinking at that moment of going into the Peace Corps because a lot of his classmates from the Citadel were going to Vietnam and not coming back. And he wanted to put something big into the world and realized he could have a Peace Corps experience without even having to leave Beaufort County at that time.
Right here in his own home.
Because of how isolated Daufuskie was at that point.
Right, so let's move over here to some other of the photographs. They're all displayed so beautifully, and it tells such an amazing story of
This is a really special corner back here in a lot of ways, because Pat's most famous student from Daufuskie Island is Sally Ann Robinson, who's now a celebrity chef and a Gullah historian. And a culture keeper, as we would say in the Lowcountry. And this is Sally Ann at 11 years old
I wondered if that was
as one of Pat's students.
And we have some of her books here.
We do. She's the author of 3 cookbooks now, which we have here in the center. And she gives tours of Daufuskie on the island. And the idea of tours, of field trips, is really central to her relationship with Pat as well, because he brought the students off the island, where many of them had never been before, to go first here into Beaufort to visit some of the museums and to go trick-or-treating for Halloween. But his big plan, the big field trip, was to go to Washington, D.C.
Where he had lived before.
That's right.
And wanted to expose those students to our big country, our capital.
He wanted them to understand how big the story of the U.S. was, and that they had a part in it too. So what better way to do that than to take them to D.C.? So this was a quintessential moment. Of Pat's 18 students, 13 are still living. I've met all of them. They all speak about this trip and how transformative it was.
And so the book that he wrote, The Water is Wide, is basically about Daufuskie.
It's his memoir of teaching on Daufuskie Island in that 1969-1970 school year. And the photographs which surround us actually appeared in the original hardcover edition, which we have in the gift shop in facsimile edition.
The Water is Wide. And we have just about 30 seconds left. Unfortunately, he was fired.
He was. That was the end of his time as a teacher, but the beginning of his time as a writer. He figured out that writing was another form of teaching. And that year has become a movie 2 different times, Conrack and the Hallmark Hall of Fame version of The Water is Wide. And it continues to inspire teachers and artists to tell their version of that story to this day.
Very good. This is just an amazing room. You do amazing work with the community and writers and authors. Thank you so much, Jonathan Haupt, who is Executive Director of the fantastic Pat Conroy Literary Center. And we'll be right back with more North of the Broad. Thanks, Jonathan.